take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling. I got a good feeling.
I'm Blanche.
Hi, I'm LaRonda.
We are so excited for you to join us for our first Blind Grace podcast. Today's topic is going to be about finding your purpose. For me, finding your purpose is figuring out your why. Why has God put you on this earth, and what are you being called to do? And so for me, this is 20 years in the making, and I have been called to help out with the visually impaired community, which is kind of how we met over the last couple of years. And so it's really just figuring out his why and what he wants to do with me.
Co-sign that statement. I think for me, for a long time, I thought my purpose had to align with other things in my life that I did, right? So like, oftentimes you'll hear people use the word purpose when they focus on like their career, or, oh yeah, I do this job because it's my purpose. And that's not saying you can't find your purpose in that, right? But understanding that your purpose is what God put inside of you to bring to the world. And sometimes that changes, right?
It does.
The purpose I may be walking in today may not be the purpose that I walk in 15 years from now. Because once you fulfill that, there's always a new assignment. So I guess if I had to like simply say what purpose means to me, purpose means assignment. Mm-hmm. Like, what has God assigned me to do at this point in this time, and how can I bring that like to the world?
So what do you think one of our original assignments, like we were together, mm-hmm. You were my intern, mm-hmm. And then you came back and we started working together. So I think one of our original assignments and our purpose is to teach the visually impaired community how to become independent and travel independent, which is something we're going to talk about on one of our later topics.
Yeah.
But I think that was one of our original assignments.
1000%. And I also believe like sometimes God will use random ways to bring people together, mm-hmm. if that makes any sense at all. Because if we're being real, like the more I'm in this, the more I'm like, this is a lot bigger than me, right? Mm-hmm. But I also understand that no purpose can truly be accomplished as an individual. Like, I feel like the old people in church used to say, like, one prayer could put 1,000 to flight, but 2 prayers could put 10,000 to flight. So the whole idea that we are always better together. Mm-hmm. So even using like the work we do professionally to bring us together as a whole, to do other things within this field, I think even that area of like advocacy and seeing what that looks like and what that moves to, it is very important to be in communion with others to see it, because we all advocate in different ways, right? Like, I might advocate a little more ignorantly than you would if we're being honest. So just understanding, like, being able to see us doing the same thing in different realms can show you that, we're all a piece of the puzzle.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we've had many conversations even before this, at dinners, and you coming over here and just kind of talking about, what's next. And, it's kind of been on my heart to bring you along for this ride, mm-hmm. And we've had this idea for a while of doing a podcast, mm-hmm. to kind of talk about, some of the things that we as individuals come across when we're working with visually impaired people, mm-hmm. but also to take a deeper dive and to figure out, what our purpose truly is, right. Why we are here, and what's next. And like you said, our purpose can change. Mm-hmm. For me, I always wanted to be a nurse. Like, that was my thing. That was my purpose, I thought. And for years and years, I always wanted to do that. And then, I was taking care of both of my grandparents who were sick. And it was kind of at that time where God kind of opened some different doors. And I went into child and family studies, and that's where I met my very first person that was visually impaired. She walked in, she had her dog, and we started talking, and kind of the rest is history. But you always wonder, you always think you have this purpose. You have it all laid out, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn, and the light bulbs start to go off, and you start to look back, and you're like, Oh, okay. Now I see that there's a much bigger purpose, and all of those dots were just kind of leading to what's next.
Definitely. I will be honest, my journey here was much different. I think sometimes growing up as like a little black kid, like you're told that, oh, this is how we get out or this is how we make it, right? Like if it's not going to be sports, if it's not going to be music, they're pushing you to be like a lawyer, a doctor. Like, your parents are always like, if I'm going to pay for school,
right,
you're going to do something worth me paying for school for. And so I remember growing up as a kid thinking, oh, it's definitely lawyer. Took my first chemistry class. I was like, yo, I love this ish. Like this has to be it, right? So I was like, doctor. Took my first biochem class and I was like, this is really boring. Like, this can't be it, right? Yeah. Like, chemistry in high school was a bomb. Like, you're mixing all these different things, finding out what makes up everything, you know what I'm saying? All the way down to the molecular level, all these different things. So you think it's going to be awesome. Until I was sitting in that class one day like, yo, the sound of this man's voice is irritating me. I just, like, don't want to be here. So from there, just, like, taking a journey to figure out what I wanted to do, stumbled on a new major. My mom was just like, so yeah, that's what we spending our money for. You know what I'm saying? Going from that to doing city year and just having a moment where I really was like pleading with God, you got to show me something. Because right now, this isn't it. What I've been doing isn't it. I don't know what's next. And I remember having a conversation with my mom. Because my mom, as you know, is also an O&M. And she's like, LaRonda, I think you would love it. She's like, you don't like four walls. You don't work inside. She was like, you can have a boss, but not really. And if we're being real, y'all, that was real appealing to me because I don't do well in systems. They just don't make sense to me. Like, and just knowing that by taking that step, getting that degree, stepping here, found this. I tell you this all the time. Like, I don't know how we got here, but I love it here.
Yeah. Well, and I think you and I have a much deeper relationship than we had ever thought. We giggle, but my son calls her 6 days a week because she comes over here 6 nights to eat.
Not anymore, people. Not anymore.
Yes. But that's kind of what I want to talk about next. So let's talk about your newest purpose and community imprints and wanting to put a stamp. What is that about?
Literally, y'all, I just like clothes. There's really no other way to describe it. I'm a huge thrifter simply because I like to wear things that are not the norm. Like, I like to find things and make it something else. There was like this endeavor that I wanted to do, and I still have not done that, by the way.
Which one?
But I can't say it on camera. The people can't know yet. It's not time for the release, friend, But that kind of brought me to the path of, if I do the work myself versus getting a middleman, then I can quality control all my own things and all that. So I was like, I want to do embroidery. For people who don't know, an embroidery machine, you dropping some ducats, you dig? So I was like, well, let's try starting out with something that's like, scaling it back. Starting out with something that's a little bit more simple. My friend taught me how to use a Cricut. And so the t-shirt process began. From there, like a couple of months later, I was like, yeah, I actually do want that embroidery machine. And we kind of just moved into some other things, custom denim. I do like t-shirt orders and different things like that. My favorite thing is probably the custom denim because it truly is my heart coming to life. And like meeting my heart with other people's vision, I guess is a good way to put it. The name really came about because I truly believe in leaving a stamp, like my friend said. You know what I'm saying? Like community imprints. An imprint is literally something that you boom, and you come out and whatever was on that stamp, whatever was on your emboss, all that comes through. And understanding that we have the opportunity to leave footprints in our community in many ways. I think oftentimes when people think about their opportunity to have impact on one, some, or many, they only look at it with a very narrow view, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I have to volunteer, or I have to be like the feet of the protest. I have to be the one writing the check, without realizing that all of those things have to come together to bring a movement. So I definitely believe in just leaving an imprint on my community, whether that be through offering t-shirts for a family reunion, right? Or being able to say, I did that custom denim that truly brought that person's personality and put it on the back of a jacket, like any of that. So that's kind of where that evolved from. I know I rambled a little bit, but I get a little passionate about it.
And I mean, that pretty much just shows like why you are along for the ride, like why you are a board member and why we've taken some of these ideas and really decided to run with them. So it's been really neat to just kind of watch, Blind Grace unfold, which is just kind of something that's been on my heart forever, but I didn't realize it, till I was sitting at a conference. I was there for Arbonne, and a girl got up and she spoke, and she talked about how she had lived in Africa and how she wanted to start some nonprofit so that she could allow others, that are less fortunate to be able to design clothes and design baskets and stuff like that. And she's up there talking, and I'm bawling, crying, and it was just kind of at that moment where I realized that, like, okay, this has really been on my heart for a really long time, and it's time for movement, it's time for growth. And it kind of brings up one of the next things I wanted to talk about is being uncomfortable in that movement, and how sometimes you just got to listen, listen. But then movement is hard, and growth is hard, and it's not just a straight and narrow path. I mean, there's going to be dips and lows and valleys, and sometimes your head's barely above water. And I heard something the other day. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about if you were truly doing God's work in the beginning, how a lot of times you just feel broke and you feel run down, and and it's about surrounding yourself with those people that continue to push you, that want you to do better, and waiting patiently for what is next. Because what you think is next is usually what is not next.
It's probably not it. But I feel like even that speaks like what I told you when you first started doing this, and you were like, it's all happening so fast. And I was like, but it's really not, though, because ultimately you have been preparing for this for years, right? Like, it seems overnight, but it's not overnight. All those like little pebbles that came together to make your walkway. So when it was time to run, you already had a way paved in front of you to make it happen, And even to that point, like even people looking like, oh, well, you built this nonprofit overnight. You really haven't, Like you've been making the connections. You've been servicing the people, all these different things to make this something. So that when it was time to step out on that limb, right, you had a little something, a little cushion. Mm-hmm. So even if the limb broke, you had some things on it to catch your fall. And understanding that everything that we do in life, if you live a life correctly, you know what I'm saying? Everything that you do will align to your purpose at some point, even when you cannot see it. Like one day you're going to wake up and you're going to see the picture, and I like to call it the blueprint, because I've been asking God for a sneak peek every night. But one day you're going to look up and it's just going to be like, oh, like you said, all the dots like connect, where it's just like, oh, 5 years ago when I met them, that was for this. Or, oh, the other week I was talking to this random lady about, I should hit her up because she can do. Right. So understanding that all of those things that we do really matter. I think that people say that often, right? Like, oh, the decisions you make, the choice, the way you speak to a person. But in retrospect, all of that does really matter. The person you speak to today on a corner, you just say hello, might be the same person you're looking for in 15 years for whatever.
Right. No, it's true. And one of the things I've always instilled in my kids, and it's kind of one of the things I say all the time, is be the reason someone smiles today. And it's true. It's how you treat others, because that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how you made them feel. It wasn't about what you were wearing. It wasn't about what you did. It was about, did you leave that impact, that stamp on their life, And so, that's just kind of one of those things that with Blind Grace, I know we're going to keep doing some big things.
I'm going to say it again. I've said it before. I don't know how I got this like entrenched in this thing, but I'm here for the ride, friend. I feel like I never have a problem with being behind great things. Number one, this is definitely a great thing. And also understanding that like when people around you are doing awesome things, if you don't hop on their bandwagon, can you even call yourself a friend, number one? Because I'll tell people all the time, if they don't support me the way you support me, you could go ahead and hit the brakes, you dig, because you're not here for nothing, right? I tell people all the time, you're definitely one that I could be selling trash bags out of a trash can, and you like, yo, we got bags 3 for $12 over here. What you doing? So literally, the whole idea that because you are doing something great, I have no problem hopping on a bike with you, and we just gonna two-wheel it all the way.
Right, and that's why you got to surround your circle of five has got to be the ones that lift you up every single day. So I'm glad you're one of my 5. And we appreciate everybody for tuning in for our very first podcast. And we can't wait to see you next time.
Bye, guys.